how to behave in a fine and elegant restaurant, what to do and what not to do in a more sophisticated restaurant. What etiquette rules should I know? Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Juliana Santiago. I am the co-founder of the Institute of Etiquette and Protocol, and today we're going to talk a little more about etiquette rules in fine restaurants, in sophisticated restaurants. You know that super famous restaurant in your city, the one you go to on special occasions? You know that really trendy place that's also hard to get a table at? Today we're going to talk a little more about how you should behave in this kind of environment. The first point is to make a reservation at a more sought after, more sophisticated, a finer restaurant. It's more competitive usually, especially when it comes to places that are truly unique in our city. So it's essential that you make a reservation. If you show up at a very popular restaurant at the last minute, you might end up waiting a long time in line for a table. That already creates a bad experience for you and the people with you. So it sets a negative mood and it's really annoying to wait. And to avoid that, it's essential that you make a reservation. Another point we need to pay attention to in a fancier restaurant is the dress code. So even when making the reservation, you can check if there's a required dress code. What kind of clothing do you need to wear to go to that restaurant? Of course, there are some things we can rule out right away. Usually at a more sophisticated restaurant, we wouldn't show up, for example, in a tank top, flip-flops, or extremely casual clothes. But if you want to be sure about what you can and cannot wear at that place, you can check when you make the reservation. Or even do a little research on social media. And here's a tip I want to give you, which I think could be really helpful for you. Sometimes you're not the one who makes the invitation or the reservation to go to that fancy restaurant. Sometimes it's someone else and you're the one who gets invited, and then you feel unsure. What you can do is check on social media or even call the restaurant to find out, to check the dress code. The way you dress and present yourself says a lot about how you view that place and that situation. If you dress the way that's expected, the way you should dress for that situation, it shows respect, it shows consideration. It also shows that you prepared to be there, that you pay attention to that environment and to the requirements needed to be there. So it's like you're trying to fit in. So many times we see this dress code issue, the clothing in a restaurant, as something really silly. But it's important for us to think that each environment will have its expected attire, its appropriate clothing. For example, at a wedding, it's natural for us to dress more formally. Of course, there are more formal and more informal weddings. And the same thing happens with restaurants. If it's a restaurant that presents itself as a finer, more sophisticated place, it's natural for us to also make an effort, and we should also make an effort in the way we present our clothing. So do some research and present yourself well, because I'm sure you won't lose anything by doing that, quite the opposite. The way people will see you will be very positive, and they'll see that you really care about that environment. You prepared yourself more to be there, and that shows that you're someone who pays attention, even to the smallest details. So trust me, it's going to be very interesting. Another point we also need to emphasize when it comes to a fine restaurant, a more sophisticated restaurant. Actually, this works for every place you go to, whether it's a bar, a more casual restaurant, or a pizzeria. It's the matter of punctuality. Unfortunately, here in Brazil, we're not used to being punctual. But when it comes to a fancier restaurant, a restaurant that often has only a few tables, where the tables are in high demand, if you make a reservation and don't arrive at the reserved time, you lose that reservation and then you go to the waiting list. You have to stay there waiting, and that's extremely exhausting for you because you go with the expectation that your table would be there waiting for you. Beautiful, wonderful, but then you arrive late and have to go to the line with everyone else. So, if you plan to be there, if it's a place you really want to visit, a place that's in high demand, very hard to get a reservation, it's only fair that you arrive on time. Actually, as I've already said, you should always arrive on time in every situation. But when it comes to a restaurant that especially has only a few tables, pay attention and arrive at the scheduled time. If possible, the ideal is for you to arrive up to about 10 minutes before your reservation, especially if you are the host for that evening. Sometimes, for example, you might celebrate your birthday at a fancier, more elegant restaurant in your city. It's essential that you arrive a little earlier so you can welcome your guests who will also be there with you, okay? When we talk about, for example, going to someone's house for a party, arriving early is considered impolite. But since it's a restaurant, which is a commercial environment, you can definitely arrive a few minutes early. If your reservation, for example, is set for 8 p.m. and you arrive at 7:50, the most the establishment will tell you is to wait. But that's better than arriving late. As soon as you arrive at the place, you need to greet people. I know it may seem very basic, but many people forget and don't pay proper attention to the staff. So when you arrive at a restaurant and there's a hostess, a receptionist who welcomes people and directs them to their table, be kind, greet this person. There's no need to make physical contact if you don't want to, okay? But you can say good evening, give a smile, maintain eye contact, and show the person that you are a considerate customer and that you are there. Very happy to be part of that moment. When it comes to a more sophisticated restaurant, you will be directed to a table. The person who can direct you to your table could be a hostess, the receptionist, or it could also be the maitre d'. That will really depend on the restaurant, okay? In this case, it's essential that you let this person guide you. It might happen that they show you to a table you don't like. So it's up to you to assess the situation and talk to the restaurant staff in a polite way so that you can switch tables. Now, it's also important for you to have good judgment. If all the tables in the restaurant are occupied, then you kind of have to stick with the one that's available to you at that moment. Otherwise, you'll have to go back to the waiting area and wait for a new table. So be kind as well. Be patient during the process of choosing a table and let the person show you the available options. Not satisfied? Did you see another table? Is there another one you want? Mention in a kind, patient, and polite way that you would like to sit at another table in a more sophisticated restaurant. When you arrive at your table, it's also natural for the staff at that restaurant to pull out the chair for you. So if the restaurant has this gesture, has this habit, allow the restaurant to do it. For you, it's a way to show you that you are important and also to demonstrate the level of the restaurant and the service they provide to their customers. So there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Many times the restaurant might end up pulling out the chair more often for a woman or for an older person. Because this follows the standards of precedence where women and older people will have a higher level of precedence of importance there than men and younger people. So this protocol is followed, but it can also happen that in some restaurants, more people will come to pull out the chair for everyone present. Now let's continue with our sequence. You made the reservation, chose your outfit, arrived at the restaurant on time, followed the standards, you're at your table, what should you do? First point, do not put your personal items on the table. So for example, cell phone, keys, purses, laptops, or any other accessory of yours should not be on the table. In the case of purses, they should be on a chair, next to you, behind you, or on your lap. Never on the table, okay? Also leaning, placed on the back of the chair, because if you put your purse on the back of the chair, does that get in the way of people moving around? Especially if it's a smaller restaurant and your purse could also fall on the floor, which wouldn't be very good for you. That's why upscale restaurants always provide a place for women to put their purses. Many of them even provide a chair and place a napkin there to protect it as well. And remember, your cell phone shouldn't be on the table, okay? So pay attention to the position, especially of your purse and also your belongings like your cell phone and keys. These should never be on the table. Once you've organized your personal items, you should place the napkin on your lap. When we're at someone's house, we should always wait for the host to place their napkin before the guests put their napkins on their laps. In a restaurant, we're in a neutral environment, so as soon as you organize your personal items, you should place the napkin, which is usually made of cloth. It's very rare to find a more sophisticated or upscale restaurant that doesn't use cloth napkins, so you should place it on your lap, okay? Don't forget this when it comes to the table and the presentation of the items arranged on the restaurant table. Always remember that the process goes from the outside in. So, the utensils that are on the outer edges, closer to the outside, will be used first, and then the utensils that are closer to the plate will be used next. So you will follow this order. Deal? I have a course on table etiquette. It's a shorter course with fewer training hours for you to take and improve yourself. It's a very simple, didactic course where you will be able to understand more about the processes at the table. I could spend a long time talking here. How are you actually going to use the cutlery in a fancier restaurant? But all this information is in the course and it can really help you. Don't miss out if you want a discount coupon to start being a student at our school. Take advantage of the YouTube coupon you can use on your first purchase. Here at the Institute of Etiquette and Protocol, the link is down below. Sign up and I'll be waiting for you there. The sommelier, the person who takes care of the wine list, can recommend some wines to you. Don't be embarrassed to ask questions. And if you don't know much about wines, you can say so. Look, usually I like a smoother wine, a drier wine, a fuller-bodied wine. You can give some guidelines, and even if you don't know much about grape varieties, giving this guidance to the sommelier will already help them assist you in choosing the wine. It's essential for us to remember that the sommelier's role is to help us, so you don't necessarily have to be the wine expert yourself. You can say how you like it, and they will suggest some labels for you. Remember, wine glasses should be held by the stem, never by the bowl. So you can hold it at the lower part here or in the middle of the stem. Extend your forefingers forward and your thumb to the back. These are two alternatives, this pinch grip or this other one here, which you can use to hold your wine glass. When it comes to conversation, it's important for us to highlight. Here we are in a fine restaurant, an elegant restaurant, so we should keep an appropriate tone of voice, right? A lower tone of voice, some more elegant restaurants. They even sometimes have someone playing the violin or a piano, so being loud or making a fuss doesn't match this kind of place. So people are there to have a more delicate moment, a more special moment, a more exclusive moment in their lives. So keeping a more appropriate tone of voice is essential, which is very different, for example, from a bar or a pizzeria where it's a more relaxed environment. So we end up getting a bit more excited. Sometimes there's live music, some samba, and then our tone of voice ends up getting a bit louder. What's important for us to remember is this: etiquette isn't meant to restrict us. It's meant to help us understand how to act in each type of situation. We have to remember that a pizzeria will require a certain behavior, a fundamental behavior. A fancier restaurant, an elegant restaurant, requires a different behavior. A bar will require a certain kind of behavior, and a coffee shop another kind of behavior. And here we're talking about a more elegant restaurant, but if you want to know about other types of places, comment below which kind of food establishment you'd like to know about. How should you behave? There will definitely be better etiquette practices, so don't forget to comment here. Don't forget to follow the channel, subscribe so you don't miss any updates, and also check out Instagram, Etiquette Protocolo. I'm always there too, and I'd love to have you. Another point is about calling the waiter. Always remember that the correct way to call the waiter is to raise your fingers, okay? If possible, you don't need to raise one finger, don't raise two, because it sounds less rude, okay? And make eye contact. You don't need to snap your fingers or keep calling the person, because that's extremely rude and it's not appropriate. In fact, it's not appropriate anywhere. Okay? The way to call the waiter in any kind of establishment is the one I'm showing you. I know it might be repetitive, but it's essential for us to remember about using cell phones, right? When we're at a restaurant, when we're with other people, we need to put our cell phone away. So there's no need for you to keep fiddling with your phone. And if you need to do that, I recommend that you get up and go to another room to talk on your cell phone, to send a voice message, or to communicate via WhatsApp. Because it's extremely rude to be at a restaurant with someone, especially a restaurant where the dishes are more expensive, or sometimes you're celebrating a special occasion and the person is just there on their phone. Spending the whole time on your phone, checking social media doesn't make any sense. So if you're already in a fancy place, if you're already somewhere sophisticated, enjoy the moment. Also, don't forget to ask for the check in a more discreet way. Call the waiter, ask him for the check, and if by any chance there's something wrong when closing the bill, don't forget to be discreet, okay? So, you can call the manager, you can talk if that's the case. You can even leave the table and go somewhere else to talk to someone responsible for the establishment to question the bill. Anyway, but don't make a scene there, especially when closing the bill, especially if you're the one paying, because in that case, you might make people uncomfortable. It can create an awkward atmosphere and can turn that wonderful experience you're providing for everyone into a negative one. Don't forget to say goodbye to the restaurant staff when you leave. So, when you're about to get up, don't forget to thank the waiter who served you, the sommelier, the maitre d', and the restaurant receptionist. Be kind and courteous to everyone. This is something fundamental, but it's always important for us to remember and reinforce, isn't it? And then you might ask me, Juliana, give me some table manners tips. Tell me a little more about this topic. I'll leave a video here on the side that I think can help you, and I think it'll be really interesting for you to watch next. I'll stop here for now. See you later.